All right, welcome back to Vuln Vibes, everybody. We love to get into the nitty-gritty here, the real juicy stuff when it comes to cybersecurity.
Absolutely.
Today, we're diving into a vulnerability. Well, actually, a critical vulnerability. One that could let a hacker kind of turn your code into their own little playground.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking about Sentry. It's a pretty popular error tracking platform. And this flaw we're looking at, account takeovers, full on.
Yeah, definitely something to be concerned about.
Before we really get into it, though, I'm sure some of our listeners might not be super familiar with Sentry itself. Could you give us a quick overview, like what it is, why developers use it, that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. Sentry, think of it like a watchdog for your code.
Okay, I like that.
It's always watching, always looking out for any errors or problems that might pop up in your application.
And it helps you fix those problems, right?
Exactly. It gives you all this great insight into what went wrong, where, and how to actually go about fixing it.
Super valuable for any developer, especially if you're working on, a complex project.
Absolutely. Helps improve the quality, make sure things are running smoothly, all that good stuff.
Reliability, uptime, you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. That's Sentry in a nutshell.
So our trusty watchdog here, it seems like maybe I had a little bit of a security slip-up. Can you tell us a bit about this vulnerability? Why did this one have everyone in the cybersecurity world, buzzing?
Yeah, so this vulnerability is officially tracked as CVE-2025-22146.
Okay.
And yeah, it got a CVSS score of 9.1. That's high, like really high.
Oof. Yeah, that puts it squarely in the critical category.
Absolutely. What made this one so serious was that it exploited a weakness in how Sentry implemented something called SAML single sign-on.
All right, before we go any further, I know we just threw a bunch of acronyms out there.
It's a cybersecurity world.
It is. For those listening who might not be as familiar, can you break down what SAML SSO is and why it's relevant to this Sentry issue?
Sure. Think of SAML SSO as a master key to your digital kingdom. Instead of having a separate login for every single website, every application you use.
Oh, so that's why I can log into like a bunch of stuff just using Google.
Exactly. You're using one set of credentials across a bunch of different services. Makes things way more convenient.
Definitely.
But, and this is a big but, it means these different systems have to trust each other. And in Sentry's case, well, that trust wasn't earned.
Okay, so how did this vulnerability actually work? Like, what could an attacker actually do with it?
So this vulnerability was all about how authentication was handled within the SAML SSO process.
Okay.
Let's say an attacker got their hands on a user's email address. Right.
Not hard to do these days.
Not at all. With this vulnerability, they could completely bypass the usual authentication steps and basically just become that user on a shared Sentry instance.
Oh, wow. So they wouldn't need the password or anything?
Nope. Just the email address was enough. Think about it. They could get access to project information, error logs, all sorts of sensitive data.
And companies rely on Sentry to protect that stuff, right?
Exactly. It's supposed to help developers keep their projects safe. But in this case, it was almost like giving attackers a back door.
All right, so that does sound pretty bad. Can you paint us a picture? Like, how would this play out in a real-world scenario?
Sure. Imagine a company, right? They use Sentry to keep tabs on their main application, the one that makes them money.
The big one, yeah.
Yeah. And an attacker gets a hold of, let's say, a developer's email address.
Oh.
Using this vulnerability, boom, they take over that developer's account in Sentry.
And from there they can.
Well, they could do a lot of damage. They could mess with error logs, try to hide their tracks, maybe even steal valuable code, or just disrupt everything, cause outages, you name it.
So basically this vulnerability was a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Huge implications for any organization using Sentry.
But Sentry, they patched it, right?
Yeah, thank goodness. They released version 25.1.0, and that fixed the issue.
So anyone using Sentry, upgrade, upgrade, upgrade.
Exactly. Now, for organizations using Sentry's cloud service, the patch was automatically applied back in January.
Oh, okay. So they're good.
Yeah, but if you're running your own Sentry instance, self-hosted, you've got to manually update to that latest version.
All right, folks, get on that if you haven't already.
Security is all about staying on top of these updates.
100%. But this also makes me think, SSO is supposed to make things more convenient.
And it does.
But as we've seen, it can also open up these vulnerabilities. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it shows that convenience can't come at the expense of security. SSO is great for smoother user experience, but it has to be implemented carefully.
So it's a trade-off, almost.
It can be. Organizations need to be really thorough, follow best practices, do regular audits of their systems, and stay in the loop about any potential weaknesses and how they've got SSO set up.
It's like a constant cat and mouse game, isn't it?
Kind of, yeah. Technology changes so fast, new threats pop up all the time, you got to stay vigilant.
Absolutely. So, to wrap this all up, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with today?
I'd say the biggest thing to remember is that security isn't just one person's job. It's a shared responsibility.
Everyone needs to do their part.
Absolutely. Developers, security teams, organizations as a whole, we've got to work together. Make sure convenience doesn't overshadow security.
Great point.
Keep those systems patched. Review your security practices regularly. And please, stay informed about the latest threats. Knowledge is power, right?
Knowledge is power in the cybersecurity world, that's for sure.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, awesome. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. For those listening, if you're using Sentry, make sure you're updated. You heard it here first. Stay safe, everyone.
Stay safe out there.
And we'll catch you on the next episode of Vuln Vibes.
See you next time.